Hello everyone. Welcome to All Bible Prophecy Fulfilled. This is number 20 in our series titled, The Man of Sin. It is a theory we are putting forward for investigation and analysis. You can find this document in our website or contact us. There's no shortage of theories about the man of sin. All these theories ignore one primary essential principle of interpretation, however, and that is audience relevance. If Paul was writing about a man of sin in our time, it would have no relevance to those to whom he was writing. But clearly, Paul was letting the Thessalonians know about someone who was of concern to them, in their own time, the first century. It's important to ask, when we read Scripture, what did this mean to the first century Christians to whom it was written? If we will not answer that question, we are ignoring the first principle of Bible interpretation, that is, context, which includes audience relevance. Let's look at some details. The Thessalonians were being deceived into thinking the day of the Lord had already happened. This points out that these people, under Paul's teaching, had a very different conception of the second coming than current Christian futurists. They believed the presence of the Lord was to be an unseen spiritual transformation of passing from death to life, not a cataclysmic earth-burning event. This should be noted. The temple, required by the text, is not present with us now, nor is there any prospect that it will be in the future, despite adamant claims. But the temple was definitely present when Paul wrote. This sets the context. The man of sin was marked by lawlessness. The first century zealots fit this category. To a T, going against all the principles taught by Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus urged followers to be peacemakers, repentant, meek, merciful, pure in heart, and hungry for righteousness. But introspection was not for the zealots. They were prideful revolutionaries and soon showed themselves to be bloodthirsty murderers, even of their own countrymen. The zealots used high-sounding duplicitous phrases to justify their violence. They said it was breaking the first commandment to obey the emperor because the emperor claimed to be divine. The zealots asserted they wanted only Yahweh as their ruler, but their violent behavior betrayed selfish and prideful motives. Some may ask, why would the Thessalonians, nearly 1,000 miles from Jerusalem, be concerned with what was going on in the temple? Firstly, Jews likely formed the core of Christian believers in Thessalonica. We see every time Paul entered a new town, he would head straight for the synagogue, where he would find Jews who accepted Jesus as Messiah. Tanakh literate, that is, Old Testament literate Christian Jews, would likely have been key leaders and teachers in the early church. Of course, it was also in the synagogues where Paul met the most severe opposition. Secondly, pilgrimages to Jerusalem were required of Jewish men 3 times a year for feast days. Many would likely bring their families. Celebration of the feast continued almost 40 years after Jesus' ascension until the destruction of the temple in AD 70. This is part of the reason Jesus' warning to leave Judea, when they saw armies surrounding Jerusalem, was so pertinent to all Jews. Thirdly, we need to keep in mind that the destruction of the temple, which was emblematic of the Old Covenant, was key for the full presence of the Messianic age. Please see Hebrews 9, verse 8 and 9. In Revelation, the beast was spoken of as an individual at times and collectively at times. We believe the same approach may be being taken in this text. Paul was speaking collectively of the zealot movement and also of an individual who would arise. The powerful governor of the temple, Eleazar ben Ananias, turned the temple into a war-making base and changed the law of Moses, excluding Gentiles from worship of Yahweh. Those who implicate Eleazar for starting the Roman-Jewish war are 1st century Jewish historian Josephus and 2nd century writer Hegesippus or Hagesippus. This is a theory for consideration and study. Since all the books of the NT were completed by around AD 65, see paper and video number 7, we have no report in Scripture of the unfolding of the war. Therefore we need to look for reliable outside sources which, providentially, we have. Thank you for listening. Shalom.